Bem-vindos a mais um Tecnológica, ainda hoje no primeiro dia da exposição deste grande dia especial do Angotic 2025. Eu trago com vocês o Sr. Temidayo. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Temidayo Oniosun. I'm the managing director for Space in Africa. Space in Africa is a market intelligence company focusing on the African space and satellite industry. We're headquartered in Lagos, Nigeria. We also have an European office in Tallinn, in Estonia. We mostly work with government agencies to develop strategies and policies around their national space program. And we work with commercial space companies to explore different types of business opportunities in the ecosystem.
Why invest in space technology in Africa?
Yeah, I think when you look at the world we live in today, space technology is changing the way we live, the way we work, and the way we interact with each other. So when you look at communication, for example, I'm sure a lot of people are seeing the way Starlink is disrupting global communication and making connectivity available literally everywhere on the planet. So that's an example of space technology. Even beyond Starlink, you can see what is going on in Angola with AngoSat 2. That's a satellite technology that is connecting everywhere in Angola, but not just in Angola, but even other part of Africa. So beyond connectivity, when you look at things like even Earth observation, the ability to be able to monitor what is going on in different countries or what is going on across the entire world is something very significant. It affects the way we interact with each other. It affects the way we're able to, monitor disaster. It affects the way we're able to even monitor industries like agriculture. Like you can monitor your farmland from space. And the ability to do that sort of like make the whole process more effective. So space technology is very critical. It's helping us to understand our world better. And I think that this is one of the reasons why it is important for Africa.
What recent projects or success story has Space for Africa supported?
So we one of the work that we recently did is to develop the baseline study for the establishment and operationalization of the African Space Agency. This work was done for the African Union Commission. And just to talk a little bit about that, the African Space Agency is like Africa's version of NASA. It's the all African countries coming together to run a space program. And we developed the study for that. And just 2 months ago in Cairo, we also inaugurated this agency. And so the continent now has a national space has a continental space program that every African can actually be a part of.
And why? Why invest in space technology in Africa?
I think when you look at most of the problems that Africa face, they can actually be addressed with better information. So you look at, a lot of regions in Africa today are faced with insecurity. They are faced with border wars. You can monitor your territories, you can monitor borders, you can monitor countries, you can monitor infrastructures using space technology. When you look at even like the sustainable development goals, majority of these goals can be addressed in Africa with better information, with space technology. And so space technology has become a critical tool to achieve sustainable development and socioeconomic development of Africa. And this is why we're investing in it. This is why when you look at the African Union Commission, the Agenda 2063, which is a vision for the Africa that we want, the future that we want in Africa. A key component of this is the space program, because we realize that for the future of Africa that we want to build, space technology is going to be very critical for this, whether it's in improving food security, whether it's in monitoring and managing disaster, or whether it's in industries like healthcare or agriculture or mining. There's an element of that that space technology can help with. And in the past years, what we've seen is that several African countries have started making investments in space technology. Most have set up national space agencies. Some have even manufactured and launched satellites. Like we're in Angola. Angola has set up a national space management office. Angola has also built and launched satellites. And that's because as a country, Angola understands the impact of that technology. And we have a few countries that have also done that. But we realize that, every African countries do not necessarily need to set up space agency. Every African country do not necessarily need to build and launch satellites. We can all come together and build this technology and share infrastructure. And even the countries that don't have the resources to either set up a space agency or to build satellites, they can also benefit from this. And this is what led to setting up an African space agency so that all these countries can come together and share resources. So if Angola has a communication satellite, South Africa does not need to launch another one. Angola is working on an Earth observation satellite. Nigeria does not need to, build another one. You can share the data, you can share the resources, you can share capacity, and at the end of the day, have a better continent. And this is why we're investing in space.
Let's talk about the ecosystem challenge and opportunities. What is the current state of the African space, teach startup and business ecosystem?
That's an interesting question. So, looking at the ecosystem today, if I look at the commercial ecosystem, so we have the upstream and we have the downstream. So, the upstream are the companies that are manufacturing technologies. They're building technologies, and they're either sending those to space or using it here. The downstream are those companies that are using the technology or using the data from the technology to address different types of problems. And in Africa today, we have more than 400 companies operating in both, industry segment. We have more downstream companies because, we have a lot of companies that are using space-based data to build products and services. On the upstream, we have a couple of companies that are also manufacturing satellite technology. They are manufacturing satellite components. They are designing space missions. We have companies that are, manufacturing cameras. But for use in space, we have companies building different types of payload. And these companies are, distributed across Africa, but they're mostly in South Africa. On the downstream end, we have companies that are using satellite data for application in, remote sensing application in different industry, from mining to logistics to agriculture. We have a lot of companies doing them. Also recently, at least over the last decade, startups in the space ecosystem in Africa, they've raised well over $200 million in an investment. And majority of this investment actually come from abroad. So we have a lot of VCs in Europe that are actually funding companies in Africa. One of the trends we're also seeing is that these companies that are coming out of Africa, their market is global. So they're not just building technologies and solutions for Africa, but they're building technologies and solutions for global market. So I was talking, for example, about companies that are building satellite payloads. We have African companies building satellite payloads that are flying on NASA's mission, payloads that have been to the moon, that are being sold across the world. So the ecosystem is actually growing very well. On the government side, we have a little over 200, a little over 20 countries in Africa today that have set up or in the process of establishing national space agencies. And they've launched more than 60 satellites up to date.
Which countries or regions are leading this movement?
That's an interesting question. I think that, we have a lot of, like I said, more than 20 countries in Africa are now running some form of space program. In terms of investment and, types of technology, I think countries like Angola, countries like Egypt, Morocco, Nigeria, and maybe South Africa. These are like the leading countries. We have, another level lower than that, countries like Kenya, like Zimbabwe, like Ethiopia, like Ghana. Yeah, but, in the top, and the way I rank it is based on how much investment they're putting, as well as the type of technology that they own or that they've launched. Those are Angola, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, Algeria, and Morocco.
What are the biggest challenge in advancing space technology in our context?
I think the biggest challenge we still face to the end, even though this is a challenge, I see it as an opportunity, especially opportunity for young people in Africa. The challenge is that currently the African space industry generates about $20 billion in revenue. Every year, African government budgets more than $500 million for their national space program. The problem is that most of this money actually leave Africa. They go to companies in Europe, in China, in America that are building and selling technologies to Africa. So the biggest problem is that in terms of building space technology, we're still dependent on foreigners. While this is a challenge, I see it as a big opportunity for young people to come in and actually play within that space.
We are almost finished, but before finish, what is the? I'm sorry. Just to finish, how do you see the future of space technology in Africa over the next 10 years?
Over the next 10 years, I think we'll see the rise of more companies that are building and developing space technology. I think we would also see a lot more young people coming to the ecosystem. There's a lot of opportunities and funding in the ecosystem. We just need like really smart people to come in and take advantage of that. And with the African Space Agency being operational also, we expect to see a lot of distribution of capacity, distribution of technology. Like right now, we're thinking of constellation of Earth observation satellite for Africa. We're thinking of constellation like emerging, an African version of Starlink. So over the next decade, these are some of the things that we look forward to.
Do you want to say some words about the Angotic 2025?
Oh yeah, this is my third Angotic, and it's lovely to see the growth over the years. I think there are more companies here, this year than last year. So this is very great. It's good to see the conference actually grow. It's always a good opportunity to catch up with old friends and meet new people. So I always love coming to this.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
E para si aí em casa, por favor, subscreva. Nós estamos em todas as redes, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Tecnológica, no especial Angotic 2025.